join us on this Lunch and Learn. For those of you that don't know or maybe haven't attended any of the other prior seminars, my name is Regan Carlo. I work over at Metco Credit Union, so I'm just across the railroad tracks from like the treasurer's office. So today's topic, we're going to talk a little bit about the power of the buying power and what that means for you as a consumer. All right, so let's dig into this. How can I help you have buying power when making some big ticket purchases? So the goals that I want to accomplish today are, I'm going to define what buying power is. It's also known as purchasing power. And then provide some tips on how to use cash and financing to your advantage. And then how to stay competitive in a seller's market. So what is buying power? Well, it can be viewed in two different ways. So there's the investing buying power and there's purchasing buying power. Today, we're going to focus on the purchasing side of things. Unfortunately, I'm not licensed to be able to really talk about investing. So we're going to talk about the purchasing side of things and what does that mean? So the buying power refers to an individual or a consumer, so you and me, our ability to purchase goods and services with cash. So this is what is called disposable income. This is the cash that's left over after we receive our income and after we have paid all of our bills and taxes. So having more buying power means that us as the consumer has more excess cash to spend. So what are we spending our money on? This could be your day-to-day purchases. A lot of times it's how much of a down payment do we have? Do we have the ability to make purchases in all cash? So cash is king. We've all heard that phrase. And yes, I do have to believe that that cash truly can make an offer more attractive. So for example, if I have $10,000 and I see a vehicle that I want, I have the ability that's within, the purchase price, say the vehicle is $10,000, I can go make that purchase. And my offer is going to be much more attractive to the seller because I can essentially pay for that today. It's on the spot. The seller has more confidence in that purchase and they get the deal done and over with. So they no longer have to worry about trying to sell that vehicle. The other nice thing about using cash when you make purchases like that is that you don't have to pay any interest. So you're not borrowing any money. You don't have to pay additional money, which is the interest to a lender or a financial institution. It also allows for negotiations to happen. So a lot of times, if you want to buy a vehicle and let's say a vehicle is listed for $5,000, but I only have $4,500. So I can actually contact the seller and wheel and deal, if you will, that I can pay you $4,500 today versus you waiting around for $5,000 from another person that maybe they have to wait for a financial institution to get back to them. So what do you do in the event that that is not our situation? So not everyone has the cash on hand to be able to make these big purchases. So what do we do? And how can you use that to your ability to make a solid offer and still be able to buy what you want? Let's dig into financing a vehicle. So not every lender likes to see some sort of a down payment, but we may not require it. So if you have cash, whether that is $500, $5,000, whatever it might be, if you have some sort of a down payment, a lender is most likely more often than not able to approve that transaction to help finance it. You're putting some skin into the game. They look at that as a little bit of a security. You're serious about it. You're going to take care of it. You're putting your hard-earned money into that transaction. Also, on the flip side of that, excuse me, Having cash can also lead to a lower loan amount. It can lead to potentially a lower interest rate because what you are financing might be worth more than what you're actually financing. So if the vehicle's 10,000, but you're going to put 2,000 down, now you only need 8,000 to buy it. So you're ahead of the game. Overall, having a lower or having a down payment and having a lower loan amount, you might have a lower interest rate. Your overall monthly payment is going to be less as well. So that's going to save you some money. There is a little disclaimer down there at the bottom, but if you are currently investing your excess cash when interest rates are low, they've been super low in the past, they're starting to increase, but some people that invest their money may see an opportunity to actually borrow money because it's at a low interest rate than what they're able to earn. So I always say consult with your advisor if that's a situation that you are in. They'll be able to weigh those pros and cons for you. Okay, so what do? We don't have all cash to buy an offer or buy a vehicle. What should be the first things that we do? I always tell people to do some research. We all have Google at our fingertips, and let's use it. So research vehicles. So you can actually put in like what's important to you. You know, do you want safety? Do you want a reliable vehicle that's, you know, if you're involved in an accident, is it going to protect you and your loved ones in the vehicle? What's the cost to maintain a vehicle? So you can Google what is the average cost of an oil change? How much do tires typically run on this type of vehicle? You can Google gas. I mean, what are the miles per gallon? You know, what's highway mileage? What's in-town mileage? So you can do the research prior to going to a dealership to find out what's truly going to fit your need and your want. Having those specific vehicles in mind, you can then pinpoint what dealerships maybe you should go to. So a lot of times vehicles will specialize in a particular type of vehicle. So maybe it's Honda or maybe it's Nissan, whatever it might be. You can then narrow what dealerships you have to spend time at. You also have the ability to research the value of the vehicles. So if you have 2 or 3 vehicles in mind, you've done your research, you're like, these are great. Let's find out how much they are. There's 2 links here on this slide through NADA and Kelley Blue Book. Both of those are very similar in the valuations that they provide. But it also gives you as the buyer the ability to know how much you should spend on that. So maybe you're looking at a Honda Civic. You think that that's going to be a perfect vehicle for you. And you can go out to NADA and find out that it's worth $10,000. But if you go to the dealership, if they have it listed for 15, then that doesn't make sense for you because they're overpriced. The nice thing about doing that research too is it gives you confidence in what you want to buy, but it also will help you save some time when you're at the dealerships because you can go in and say, okay, I'm looking for XYZ for a vehicle. I see that you've got 3. I want to see those 3. It can kind of cut out any of that what if or here, let me show you this type of vehicle. Let me show you this one. And just save you time with doing some research. Step 2 in financing a vehicle. I do recommend looking at getting pre-approved with your own individual financial institution. This will save you some time. It helps create your budget. You're going to know what your estimated payment is ahead of time. So you'll know if you can truly look at those vehicles that you were doing research on. The pre-approval will also give you that confidence and ready to make the purchase as if you had the cash on hand. So essentially you can walk in and say, I'm pre-approved up to $20,000. Do not show me a vehicle that is priced more than $20,000. So it gives you that confidence to kind of stick to your guns. And there's no real negotiating back and forth because you have your pre-approval limit. The pre-approval will also save you that credit check. So yes, a dealership may run your credit through, say, 5, 6, 7 different financial institutions to try to get you some dealer financing. If it's all done on that same day and the dealer codes it right, it will actually only show up as one inquiry, as what the credit bureau will take it as. So it's all at vehicle dealerships. It's all on the same day. They're not going to dock you the 3 points as long as it's all on the same day. The other part of this is that the dealership is likely going to continue to ask you to finance with them. So they might ask you, well, what's your payment? So you tell them what payment you've been pre-approved at. Well, they may bring in some vehicles that are over your budget, because they might tell you, well, we can actually finance you for a longer term and keep your payment the same. And so you can buy a more expensive vehicle. This is their job too. So don't feel as if they're targeting you by any means. They're just trying to sell you a more expensive vehicle. Also, using your research will help you when, maybe they're overpriced by like $2,000. Don't be afraid to show the dealerships exactly what you found on NADA or Kelley Blue Book. I see that this vehicle is only worth this. I'm not paying any more than that. So you can still negotiate on those prices. A sticker price in the window of a vehicle does not mean that that is the end all price. Also, don't be afraid to walk away. So if they won't budge on their price, walk away. They need to sell that vehicle, whether or not you finance with them or not, or you pay cash for it. They want you to buy it. So likely they will call you within 24 hours and you can start that negotiation price on bringing it down. So finally, just don't let the pressure and the stress of a dealership cause an impulse buy. A lot of times, they're salespeople, they're supposed to talk it up. But if you have any questions, don't sign on the dotted line until you're 100% confident in your decision.
Reagan, I'll jump in here real quick with a question that was submitted.
Yeah.
Is it true that even if we finance with the dealership, we can purchase things like GAP and extended warranty from Metco?
Oh, yes. So there are additional services or products, if you will, that you can purchase at either a financial institution or at a dealership. Some of those are the extended warranty, might be the gap protection, might be maybe some cosmetic extras, that type of thing, or cosmetic protections. So wherever you finance, you can still purchase those elsewhere. So even if you finance with the lender or the financial institution, you can purchase the dealer's gap or warranty and vice versa. Just what I do tell people or recommend is to compare the two. So a lot of times it's the same product, it's the same service, and it covers the exact same, but one might actually be less in price. So definitely getting, compare apples to apples. Is there a better deal for you where you can save some money? Good question.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so in short, here is what I recommend when you're looking at financing a vehicle and still giving you that power. So research the vehicles, research the values, looking at getting pre-approved. Don't settle or be swayed by pressure. So kind of in conjunction with what that question was about with additional services, that's going to add more money to your loan amount, but also note that there's what's called tax, title, and license that also will typically raise your loan amount. So if you've been pre-approved for, let's just say 20,000, you're going to want to factor in tax, title, and license, and maybe even gap and warranty included in that. So you're going to want to bring your purchase price or vehicle price down a little bit to accommodate some of those things. So maybe you're pre-approved for 20,000, but you want to get fully protected and now you're looking at a vehicle for $15,000. So take that into consideration as well. Currently, the vehicle market is a little different than it has been in the past, but used vehicles are in high demand. If you remember back last year, if you drove past a car dealership lot, there weren't a lot of cars on there. So what they were wanting to sell used vehicles over new vehicles. Maybe they couldn't get the new vehicles in for 6 months, and so to continue to sell vehicles, they needed to get more used vehicles on the lot. Well, a lot of times what dealerships will do is they will reach out to past buyers. So maybe you bought a vehicle 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they want to call you and say, hey, we'll take your trade. We'll pay you this amount. Maybe they'll even pay you, $2,000 more than what Kelley Blue Book is. So you're thinking, heck, I'm making out like a bandit. I'm going to make some money here, and then I can use that as a down payment. Well, when they do that, obviously their primary thing is them. That's who their interest is in them. They want to make money, because when you trade in your vehicle, the dealers will turn around and sell it for more than what they paid you for it. So take this to a lender, take your situation or your offer that you're getting from the dealership and let them review it. Come in and say, hey, they told me that they can get me in a, 2-year newer vehicle. I'm going to essentially be paying the same amount of money. They want my car for this. A lender can actually go through and compare the two. I did have a scenario, actually not that long ago, where it sounded like a great deal. And then when I kind of picked it apart, they were actually going to be paying more in interest, and they were going to be more upside down on a vehicle, which means that they're going to owe more than what the vehicle is worth. So it wasn't to their best interest. All right, before I jump into how to have the buying power when you want to buy a home, anybody have any questions regarding buying a vehicle?
I did have one additional question, Reagan. If you are only planning to keep your vehicle for a few years, is it wise to go ahead and extend your term so that your monthly payments are lower?
Yeah. It sounds like a really great idea, because you're going to keep your payments as low as possible, and you know that you're not going to have it for very long. But what I tell people is, if you don't have much of a down payment, chances are that your vehicle is going to depreciate in value faster in a short period of time, like the first 2-3 years, than what is actually going to be paid on your loan. So you're going to still end up probably a little bit owing a little bit more than what the value is of that vehicle when you go to trade it off. So if you have it extended out for 7 years, the term, to keep your payment as low as possible, your payments are on what is called an amortization schedule. This means that at the beginning of the loan, your monthly payments are primarily going towards interest versus principal. So your loan amount balance is actually decreasing slower at the start of the loan than at the end. So you're making the same monthly payments, but you're not making a dent in the balance at the very beginning. So truly analyzing the difference between, a 5-year loan and a 7-year loan, or the amount of the down payment when you're thinking you're only going to keep it for a couple years, is probably wise on your behalf. Good question. All right, let's dig. Oh, did you have another one, Becky?
No, I was just going to let you know. That's all I have for now.
Yeah. All right, so how do we want to use our buying power when we're buying a home? Okay, so a lot of us don't have the ability to go out and buy any home with just all cash. So how can we stay competitive? There are typically 2 types of markets when you're looking at a home, or like the home market. So there's a buyer's market and there's a seller's market. The buyer's market happens when supply exceeds demand. So what that means is that there's a lot of homes for sale, but there's not a lot of buyers. And then on the flip side, the seller's market is when demand exceeds supply. So there's a lot of interested buyers, but there's not a lot of houses for sale. So there's two things, either a buyer makes out, ahead, or a seller makes out ahead. The question that I'm getting is, where are we today? Unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, and there's a lot of things that go into this. So it's hard to say what 2022 is going to bring when it comes to the housing market. I think we're in the end of winter, or spring was just the other day. So not a lot of people want to sell their home in the middle of winter. They don't want to move in the winter. So you just don't have a lot of buyers or homes for sale in the dead of winter. So we're starting to come up on that point where people are starting to think, okay, we had a 65, 70 degree day the other day. Maybe they're getting the itch. They want to sell their home. They want to buy a different one. Weather's going to be nicer. So it's hard to say if we're going to have more inventory on the market. Rates are slowly on the increase. They're on the rise. So I'm not sure how much that's going to play a factor in how many buyers are going to be out there. But again, to stress it, rates are still very low. In the 80s, they were in double digits. Today, I think I saw a 30-year for 4% yesterday. So they're still very low. It's still not a bad time to borrow money. So yes, I do not know exactly what we will bring for a housing market, especially here in Iowa or Cedar Rapids, but I wish I had that crystal ball. Okay, so step one, I strongly recommend reviewing budget, finding out exactly how much money do you have for a down payment. Down payments are imperative and they are required for the majority of home ownership or mortgage loans. So 3.5% of the purchase price is what is required for an FHA mortgage. These are government-backed mortgages. There's a few more requirements than a conventional, but it does allow for a lower cash down payment. Conventional mortgages do require 5% of the purchase price. So I do tell people, look at your budget, look at your cash flow. What do you have the ability to make for a down payment when buying a home? There are also first-time home buyer grants that are available. So I know for us, there's a Federal Home Loan Bank grant, and then there's also the City of Cedar Rapids has a first-time home buyers grant. So researching the different options that are out there. It's not a guarantee that all of the applications will be approved. So still having that minimum cash down payment available is wise in the event that it's just not quite approved to have the grant available to you. Step two, this is what I would call your golden ticket. This is going to be your golden ticket to look through homes, be able to do not necessarily open houses, those are open to the public, but to actually go in and schedule, at a different time than an open house. The sellers are going to want to see your pre-approval. So prior to the pre-approval, to gather these 4 pieces of information is crucial in getting a quick turnaround time from the time that you submit it to the time that you have that pre-approval in hand. So lenders will ask for 2 years of tax returns for all borrowers. They'll ask for 2 years of all W-2s for all borrowers. So maybe there's 1 year where you had 2 different jobs. Make sure you include all of those. They'll ask for 3 of the most recent pay stubs for all borrowers. And then they'll also ask for statements of any type of investments or maybe retirement accounts that anybody has. If you have all of those ready to go at the time that you want to submit the application, your turnaround time is going to be decreased. A true mortgage company cannot give an official written pre-approval without those pieces. Also, on average, it does take about 2 to 3 business days from the time that you submit your application with all that income information to have a pre-approval in hand. But this truly is your buying power. Your pre-approval is what is going to give the sellers confidence in your offer. It's going to give any realtor confidence that you have the ability to truly go out and look at these homes. Step 3. So that, finding a realtor is, I think, very important. I recommend it a lot of times for first-time home buyers. I think it's wise for a multitude of reasons. So you want to find a realtor that is important or that will work for you and that you're comfortable with. So don't be afraid to interview multiple. Ask family, friends, coworkers for referrals. I'm more apt to take a referral from my best friend who referred this realtor because she did wonders for her. I'm gonna take a look at that and consider it much more than just a Google review. One of the perks to having a realtor work with you and finding a home is that they have the connections. They have the connections to the other realtors. So they might know of homes that are about ready to hit the market before anybody else does. So you can use that to your advantage and get the inside scoop on homes that are about to be listed, and maybe you can get in there and see them beforehand. But, interviewing multiple, making sure that they will work for you. They're going to get a list of all of your wants and desires, like what are your top 3 things you cannot live without? So maybe it has to have 3 bedrooms. Maybe it has to have 2 bathrooms. But then maybe you're like, well, I'd love an attached garage, but it's not a necessity. So your realtor will help kind of pinpoint those, and then they're going to take those wants and desires and they're going to use that to find the inventory and find that home so that you can go in and look at homes that fit your list. Step 4. So the common theme here in this presentation is research. But I do want to let everybody know about what goes into a mortgage payment. So not only are you going to have the actual principal and interest payment to the loan, you're also going to need to consider property taxes and homeowners insurance. And then maybe there's also like condo association or HOA fees. So considering all of those things, your mortgage payment is going to increase just from principal and interest. So the good news is that we all have access to a home's property tax amount. So we can go out to the county assessor's website. We can search by the property address and we can find the annual tax amount. Take that amount, divide it by 12, and that's estimated what you would add on to your principal and interest mortgage payment on a monthly basis. Homeowners insurance is very similar. So the insurance amount or the premium will actually vary dependent on the property address, the individual, and then maybe even the company that you're going through. On average, most mortgage lenders will actually use $85 to $100 as an estimate until you select your property. And that just helps give you, the borrower, the educated information on how much your full monthly payment will be. The other part of this is property taxes tend to go up and homeowners insurance tends to go up. So when you buy this home, your very first mortgage payment might be $1,000 a month, but over the course of time, your property taxes and insurance may go up, which will then lead to a higher mortgage payment, possibly on an annual basis. I always want to disclose this piece because you think it's a loan payment, it's the same, but your escrow amount can be different. And so you may get what's called an annual analysis from your mortgage company. they're letting you know how short you are in paying the taxes and insurance. So they may ask you for a lump sum so that your mortgage payment does not change, or they can recalculate out your mortgage payment so that you pay that shortage over the next 12 months. So don't be alarmed. If you get a letter in the mail, once a year telling you that it's been analyzed and there's a shortage, it's completely common. It's completely normal. But I do always like to disclose that it very well could change over time unless you're willing to pay that lump sum to make up the shortage. Down at the bottom, I also included a link that is to bankrate.com. I use this link quite a bit, and what it is, it'll take you directly to where the mortgage calculator is. So you'll be able to put in, say, your estimated, if you're budgeting, I think, $120,000 might be the perfect house price for me. So you can put in that $120,000 for the purchase price. You can put in either a percentage of how much you want your down payment to be, or you can put in an exact amount. You can put in an estimated interest rate, and then you can pick your term being 30 years, 20 years, 15, that type of thing. And it will calculate out to you what your estimated principal and interest is on that loan, but then it'll also have you input an estimated amount for property taxes and homeowners insurance. And at the end, it will give you that grand total. So as you do your research and finding out how much property taxes are, you can put that in to know how much you're, close to how much your mortgage payment will be. It's a pretty handy tool. I probably use it once a day. This step, so we're going to continue on the research part of things. So not only on the county assessor's page is our property taxes listed, but you can also get a value. So towards the top, there is a value that's listed for that specific property. Now that amount is what is used to calculate your property taxes. This is not always the market value. So this is not how much you should sell this home for or buy this home for. It's actually a little less. So we all want taxes to be less. So you don't want your assessed value to be the same as the market value. Otherwise, you'll have to pay more in taxes. So if you use this website, this valuation, plus your realtor's knowledge, you'll be able to gain a true, price for this home that you're looking at. You can evaluate it out. Your realtor will know, maybe there were upgrades that were done. Maybe it's increased in value. It's 10% over what the assessed value is. Your realtor, the assessor's page will help you determine if it's priced right, or maybe if it's coming in a little bit high, and maybe even if it's coming in a little bit low. So those are all things that you want to ask, well, why did you choose to list this higher than what, this says? Maybe there were upgrades that didn't require a permit. So you can't see that on the assessor's page. You will, within the mortgage process, actually have what's called an appraisal that's completed. And this is prior to signing on the dotted line that the home is yours, but it's after you make your offer. So having that realtor, using all your research, you'll be able to see if your offer is comparable and it, priced right. But the timing of things just aren't quite there. So the appraisal is done to make sure that the value is there, but maybe the appraisal comes in higher than what the accepted offer is. Then you're sitting pretty good.
All right, Regan, I'll jump in here real quick with a question. Yeah. Is equity considered cash?
So I like to say that equity can be turned into cash. So your home is your investment. It is considered an asset. It's something that is worth value. However, equity is the difference between what the value of your home is and what you owe on it. So for example, you have a home that's worth $100,000. You owe $80,000. That means that you have $20,000 of equity. You can use that either in a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit and make a large purchase. So maybe you want to take out that equity, turn it into cash, buy a car. Maybe you want to do improvements to the home. So maybe you want to take that cash out and put on an addition. So your equity can physically be turned into cash that you can use however you want. Good question.
I have one more, if that's all right with you to jump in again.
Absolutely.
Say you've owned your home for less than 5 years and are looking to sell. How can I calculate or estimate equity that has been added to the house through improvements and the current market environment? So how can they, I'm sorry, he meant greater than 5 years. That was my bad. So if you've had your home more than 5 years, how can you calculate the equity that's been added to the house through improvements in the current market environment?
That's good too. Now there's no like set in stone exactly, know exactly where you sit, but you can roughly get an idea. I definitely think using the assessor's page to just look and see what the county has your value at. And then I would say you could probably look at 10%, add 10% to that. And that might be a pretty fair market value. And then you would want to take that market value and subtract your mortgage balance. So what do you owe on your mortgage? Add in what you owe on your second mortgage, if there is one. And then that is the amount of equity that you have. And essentially what that can be turned into is either a down payment on your next home, or it would be cash to you if you didn't buy another home. You can also ask for your own appraisal. Many times these are completed prior to listing a home. If you're going to list it for sale by owner, you may ask for an appraisal to get done. That'll be something that you pay out of pocket. I think they range anywhere from like $400 to $500 on average to have that done. And then a true market value of what your home is and what you should list it for. The other option too is you can always have a realtor come through and just give you an estimate on what they would sell your house for, give you a recommendation on it. There's a few different routes to go.
Perfect. Thanks, Regan.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so you've done all your research, you've gone through all these homes, you've got your pre-approval, and you found the home of your dreams. You found the one you want to make an offer on. So here's what to expect. You and your realtor will actually sit down and you'll write the offer. It's a few page offer or a few pages of an offer. So there's some specifics. One of the areas that I want to let you know on is what's called the earnest money. So at the time of offer, you will be expected to write a check to secure your offer. So a lot of times it's anywhere between $500, $2,500, what you're comfortable with. Your realtor will kind of help guide you to. This is money that, again, secures the offer, but it tells the seller that you're serious. So the higher the earnest money is, the more serious your offer comes across. So you probably have your financing in line. You probably have your cash down payment. You know exactly kind of where you sit and you want this house and you're ready to pay them $2,500 today. They will cash that check. So it's not just kind of like a fake check that you write. They will cash that check. But if you have, let's say $7,500 for a down payment and you write a $2,500 earnest check, that money comes off of your down payment. So it's not on top of your down payment. So you have $7,500, you write a check for $2,500. Now you have $5,000 that will actually go at closing that you'll pay. So it's not in addition. The other part of the offer that I like to tell people is that of closing costs. So closing costs are actually the cost to do the mortgage loan that is paid to the lender, who then disperses it out and pays the people that did the work. But either the seller can pay the closing cost on behalf of the buyer, or the buyer can pay the closing cost. A lot of that depends upon what's going on in the market. So I would always refer to the realtor, like what's most common right now. So do sellers pay or do buyers pay? If I'm not mistaken, I think for the most part, the buyers, the buyers have been paying the closing cost the last couple years, but it's also been a seller's market. So if that offer doesn't go, maybe they got another one in their back pocket. So I think that's where most of the time the buyers are paying the closing costs now. And then once you have that offer written, it goes to the seller, and they have a certain period of time to get back to you on whether or not they accept your offer. Typically it's within 24 hours. Sometimes it can be on the spot. So once that's accepted, it then goes back to the lender for the rest of what we call the underwriting process, which is just making sure that all the ducks are in a row and things are ready to move forward. All right, to recap. So obviously reviewing your budget, reviewing the amount of the cash down payment that you have, getting pre-approved, finding a realtor, and then doing your research. Those are all tips that can really truly help you have that buying power. You know, in short, for both vehicles and for homes, you know, being prepared. That's kind of in a nutshell what I just talked about for about 45 minutes is being prepared. But these will all help you. You know, take your time, evaluate your options. And then 2, just because a lender says that you're pre-approved for a certain amount, make sure that you're comfortable with it. Run it within your budget. Run it within your daily cash flow. They don't take into consideration utility payments. They don't take into consideration, you know, how much you're spending on gas to get to and from work. So make sure it fits. And then making sure that your mortgage payment can adjust as needed with escrow within that budget. Okay, so I've given you all a lot of advice. But again, being prepared is something that I think is the #1 key when looking at having that buying power. Do everything to do the right thing for you. Any wrap up questions out there?
Oh, we do have one here. I currently pay a mortgage for my current home, but want to build. How can I get buying power in that instance?
Ooh, yes. So the big thing with that would be to contact a lender that can actually work on the construction side of things. I think they're doing construction. I know some lenders have been on a hold or on a freeze just due to COVID the last couple of years. But I don't work directly with the construction side of things, so I don't have a lot of experience there. But I do believe that it's similar to, you know, you kind of have this line of credit. So you still need to get pre-approved. If you want to sell, you can still use that equity that you've accumulated to go towards the new home and the new construction. But my understanding is that you have to build everything first, and then they turn it into a conventional mortgage once it's built. And that's where then you have another closing.
Perfect. Good information and great questions. That's all that I have, Regan.
Okay. Well, as always, thank you all so much for taking time out of your day, spending your lunch with me, and never hesitate to reach out to me. So if you have questions that maybe are more individualized and you need more specific answers, feel free to email me, call me, stop by, whatever works. But yes, I am here to help. And yeah, just thank you again for spending the last 50 minutes with me.